Emma Harper stood frozen at her parents' doorstep, the December wind biting at her cheeks as she clutched a leather messenger bag to her chest. Inside the bag were 6 sealed envelopes, each containing words that could shatter the carefully constructed facade her family had maintained for years. She could hear laughter and Christmas music streaming from inside the sprawling colonial home in suburban Massachusetts where she'd grown up but never quite belonged. "You don't have to do this today," Emma whispered to herself, her breath visible in the cold air. "You could just play nice for one more year." But the memory of last Christmas still burned fresh. Her mother's dismissive glances, her father's polite disinterest, her siblings' condescension barely masked by holiday cheer. For 29 years, Emma had been the family disappointment, the creative writer who couldn't get a real job, like her investment banker brother Tyler, or settle down properly, like her perfect sister Madison with her perfect husband and perfect children. What none of them knew was that Emma had spent the past year methodically collecting their secrets. Not as revenge, at least that's what she told herself, but as protection. Because this year would be different. This year she wouldn't leave in tears. She rang the doorbell, adjusting her simple black dress that had cost half her monthly rent but was worth every penny for the confidence it gave her. The door swung open, revealing her mother Catherine's immaculately made-up face, her smile tightening almost imperceptibly upon seeing Emma. "There you are, darling. We were beginning to think you'd gotten lost again." Catherine air-kissed both of Emma's cheeks, the familiar scent of Chanel No. 5 momentarily overwhelming. "Everyone's already here." Of course they were. Emma was precisely 12 minutes early according to her watch, but in Harper family tradition, she was always characterized as late, disorganized, the one who couldn't quite get it together. "Merry Christmas, Mom," Emma said, stepping inside and handing over the bottle of wine she'd splurged on. "This is from that vineyard you mentioned liking last summer." Catherine glanced at the label. "Oh, well, we've already opened the Bordeaux that Tyler brought back from his business trip, but thank you, dear." Emma swallowed hard and followed her mother through the foyer into the living room, where the perfect Harper family tableau awaited. Her father Richard, silver-haired and distinguished in his cashmere sweater, nursed a scotch by the fireplace. Madison sat on the sofa, her husband Brad showing something on his phone to Tyler, who laughed loudly. Madison's twin 5-year-olds were playing quietly with new toys in the corner. "Look who finally made it," Catherine announced, drawing all eyes to Emma. "Hey, Em," Tyler said, raising his glass without getting up. "Still rocking the struggling artist look, I see." Emma forced a smile, her hand tightening around the strap of her messenger bag. "Good to see you too, Ty." Madison rose to hug her, the perfect hostess even in their parents' home. "You look nice," she said with genuine warmth that made Emma's resolve waver momentarily. Madison had always been the kindest, though even her kindness came wrapped in the gentle condescension of someone who believed they had life figured out while you floundered. "Thanks, Maddie. The kids have gotten so big." Emma kneeled to greet her niece and nephew, who regarded her with polite curiosity rather than affection. She saw them only on holidays, another sign of her peripheral status in the family. "Emma," her father nodded from his position by the fire. "How's the writing going?" "Still working on that novel." Before she could answer, Catherine interjected. "Let's not talk about work right away, Richard. It's Christmas. Emma, would you help me in the kitchen? Everyone else has already pitched in." And so it began, the subtle reminders that she was the outlier, the one who needed to catch up, to prove herself worthy of her place at the table. As Emma followed her mother to the kitchen, she felt the weight of the envelopes in her bag. 6 letters, 6 truths, 6 potential bombs to drop on this picture-perfect Christmas. But not yet. First, she would endure one more family dinner. One more round of subtle jabs and comparative assessments. One more chance for them to see her as she was, not as they had decided she must be. "You can start by chopping these vegetables," Catherine said, sliding a cutting board toward her. "Think you can manage that without any creative interpretations?" She laughed lightly as if she'd made a harmless joke. Emma picked up the knife, its weight solid and reassuring in her hand. "I think I'll manage just fine, Mom." For now, she would chop vegetables with surgical precision. Later, she would carve away something far more substantial, the comfortable lies that had defined the Harper family dynamic for far too long. The Harper family dinner table gleamed with Catherine's best china and silver, candles casting a warm glow over the Christmas feast. Emma sat near the end, not quite at the kids' table but clearly not in the power positions occupied by Tyler and Madison. Everything was perfect, from the crisp linens to the meticulously arranged centerpiece, a physical manifestation of the image her mother had cultivated for decades. "Before we begin," Richard announced, raising his glass, "I'd like to propose a toast to family and to success. Tyler's promotion to senior partner, Madison's charity foundation surpassing its fundraising goals, and the twins' acceptance into that prestigious kindergarten program." He smiled broadly at each of them before his eyes landed on Emma with a momentary pause. "And to Emma, who continues to pursue her passions." "To family," everyone echoed, the slight hesitation before including Emma in their glances not lost on her. Emma sipped her wine, noting how her mother had not opened her bottle but instead served Tyler's selection. A small slight, one of many that had accumulated over the years like sedimentary layers, hardening into something solid and immovable. Dinner progressed with the usual rhythms. Tyler dominated the conversation with stories of his deals and clients, casually dropping names that elicited impressed responses from their parents. Madison discussed her volunteer work and the children's accomplishments with the perfect balance of pride and humility. When the conversation turned to Emma, it followed the familiar pattern. "So, Emma," her father began with the tone he reserved for difficult clients, "bring us up to speed. Still working at that coffee shop?" Emma carefully placed her fork down. "Actually, I left Grounds for Thought 3 months ago. I've been freelancing full-time, writing for several online publications." "Freelancing," Catherine repeated, the word soaked in skepticism. "That sounds unstable." "It's actually going very well," Emma countered, maintaining her composure. "I just finished a major piece for The Atlantic that's coming out next month." Tyler snorted slightly. "The Atlantic? Didn't know they were into fantasy stories." "It's a feature article on urban gentrification, Tyler," Emma said evenly. "But I wouldn't expect you to understand the value in work that doesn't come with a year-end bonus." An uncomfortable silence fell until Madison, ever the peacemaker, changed the subject. "Did anyone see that new exhibit at the MFA? Brad and I went last weekend." Emma watched as her contribution to the conversation was dismissed, sidelined as usual. The messenger bag rested against her chair, the envelopes inside suddenly feeling heavier. As the main course wound down, Catherine began collecting plates. "Emma, would you help clear the table? Tyler and Madison prepared most of the meal, so it's only fair." Emma stood obediently, gathering dishes as the conversation continued without her. In the kitchen, Catherine began arranging dessert plates. "I wish you wouldn't antagonize your brother," she said without looking up. "He's worked very hard to get where he is." "I wasn't antagonizing him, Mom. I was defending myself." "There's a difference." Catherine sighed. "Always so dramatic. This is why you struggle, Emma. You take everything so personally instead of focusing on actual achievement." "What would constitute actual achievement in your eyes?" Emma asked, placing down a stack of plates more forcefully than intended. "Because I've published over 30 articles this year. I've been invited to speak at writing conferences. I've built a career doing what I love." "A career?" Catherine laughed lightly. "Darling, hobbies are wonderful, but at some point, you need to think about your future. You're 29. No stable job, no partner, no direction. Even your apartment is rented. Not everyone measures success by the same metrics you do." Clearly, Catherine's eyes swept over Emma critically. "But those who don't tend to end up disappointed. I just worry about you living in that city chasing these dreams." She made the word sound childish. Emma felt something crack inside her. Years of practiced restraint began to splinter. "My dreams are my reality now, Mom. I'm supporting myself doing meaningful work." "Supporting yourself? On what?" "Coffee shop tips and occasional blog posts, while Tyler manages million-dollar portfolios and Madison raises money for children's hospitals. I just don't understand why you insist on this path when you could do so much more." "More according to whom? You? Dad? The country club friends you're always trying to impress?" Catherine's expression hardened. "That's enough, Emma. Let's not ruin Christmas with your insecurities. Bring in the dessert plates, please. And try to participate in the conversation like an adult." Emma stood motionless, the familiar pain mixing with a new resolve. The envelopes in her bag seemed to call to her. Not yet, she told herself. Not until she was sure this was what she wanted. When she returned to the dining room, Richard was regaling everyone with the story of Tyler's first major account, a story Emma had heard at least 5 Christmases in a row. Madison caught her eye with a small sympathetic smile that somehow made Emma feel worse. Dessert was served, Catherine's famous tiramisu, made exactly as it had been for the past 15 years, and the conversation turned to New Year's resolutions. "I'm expanding my team by 6 new analysts," Tyler announced proudly. "The foundation is launching a new initiative for underprivileged youth," Madison added. All eyes turned to Emma. "What about you, Emma?" her father asked. "Any big plans for the coming year?" Before she could answer, Catherine interjected. "Perhaps a steady job would be a good start, or even a relationship that lasts more than a few months." Emma felt her cheeks burn. "Actually, She's still figuring things out, Dad," Tyler said with a patronizing smile. "Some people bloom later than others." "If at all," Catherine murmured, just loud enough for Emma to hear. The room seemed to tilt. 2 decades of similar comments crashed down on Emma all at once. Every dismissal, every comparison, every subtle reminder that she was the Harper family failure. "Maybe Emma could work for the foundation," Madison suggested kindly. "We always need good writers for our materials." "That's a wonderful idea," Catherine brightened. "Something stable, finally." "I don't need your charity, Maddie," Emma said quietly. Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Don't be rude to your sister when she's trying to help you. This attitude is exactly why you'll always be the failure in this family." The words hung in the air, shocking in their nakedness. Madison gasped softly. Tyler looked uncomfortably at his plate. Richard cleared his throat but said nothing to defend her. In that moment, something finally broke free in Emma. 29 years of trying to earn approval, of measuring herself against impossible standards, of believing there was something wrong with her rather than with the metrics being used. Without a word, she reached for the messenger bag at her feet, the decision made. Emma's hands were perfectly steady as she placed the messenger bag on the dining table, the Harper family crest embossed on the antique mahogany suddenly seeming like a cruel joke. The conversation had halted, her mother's words, "You'll always be the failure in this family," still reverberating in the stunned silence. "Emma, I didn't mean," Catherine began, her voice taking on the conciliatory tone she always used after going too far, the one that would be followed by "You're just so sensitive," or "I only want what's best for you." "Yes, you did," Emma interrupted, her voice quiet but firm. "You've always meant it. You've just usually been more careful about saying it out loud." She unclasped the bag and pulled out 6 envelopes, each bearing a name in her precise handwriting. Catherine, Richard, Tyler, Madison, Brad, and one marked Emma. "What are those?" Richard asked, discomfort evident in his forced chuckle. "Christmas cards? A bit late for that, isn't it?" "Not cards, Dad. Letters." Emma arranged them in a neat row. "For the past year, I've been collecting information, truths about each of us that we've tried to hide from one another. Some are things you've hidden from the family. Others are things you've only hidden from yourselves." Tyler's face hardened. "Is this some kind of game? Because it's not funny." "It's not meant to be funny, Ty. It's meant to be honest, something this family has never been very good at." Emma looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes. "For 29 years, I've been measured against standards I never agreed to and found wanting. I've been dismissed, belittled, and treated as less than. Tonight that ends." Catherine's face had paled, her hand gripping her wine glass a bit too tightly. "Emma, the children are present. Whatever dramatic scene you're planning. The twins are in the playroom watching their Christmas movie, Mom. You sent them there 15 minutes ago, remember?" Emma's smile was sad. Always concerned with appearances, even now. Madison reached across the table, her expression concerned. What is this about? If you're upset, we can talk." "We've never really talked, Maddie. Not about anything that matters." Emma picked up the envelope with her mother's name. "Let's start with you, Mom. Would you like to tell everyone why you really fired Gina, our housekeeper of 12 years, when I was in high school? The woman who was like a second mother to me." Catherine blanched. "That's ancient history and hardly appropriate dinner conversation. You fired her because she found your pills," Emma continued calmly. "Not just the prescribed ones for your nerves, but the others, the ones you got from 3 different doctors under variations of your name. The ones you've been dependent on for almost 20 years. That's enough. Richard stood abruptly, his authority filling the room. Emma, I don't know what kind of stunt you're pulling, but it stops now. Emma turned to him unfazed. You knew about it too, Dad. You've enabled it, covered for her episodes, paid off a doctor when things got bad in 2017. It's all in here. She tapped his envelope. Along with the real reason you suddenly retired from the firm. It wasn't to focus on personal investments, was it? It was because the partners discovered discrepancies in client billing, hours padded, services charged but never rendered. Richard sank back into his chair, face ashen. Tyler stood now, anger flashing in his eyes. This is sick, Emma. If this is how you handle criticism. Emma laughed softly. Is that what you call 2 decades of systematic undermining? But don't worry, Tyler, I have plenty for you too. Like how you've been manipulating grandmother's trust since becoming her financial advisor. How you've been skimming from her accounts, just enough that she wouldn't notice but enough to fund that boat you claim you bought with your bonus. Tyler's mouth opened and closed without sound. Madison, tears in her eyes, shook her head. Emma, please stop. This isn't like you. That's where you're wrong, Maddie. This is exactly like me. The real me, the one who observes, who listens, who writes down truths others ignore. Emma softened slightly, looking at her sister. Your letter is different. It doesn't expose secrets so much as express concern. Your perfectionism isn't just controlling your life anymore. It's beginning to hurt your children. The prestigious kindergarten, the overscheduled activities, the way you froze when Olivia got a B on her preschool evaluation. Madison, pale, tears spilling over. Brad, who had remained silent until now, stood protectively. That's enough. You can't just come in here and attack everyone. Emma turned to him calmly. You're right, Brad. And yours is actually the simplest letter. Just one question. Does Madison know about the text between you and your assistant? The ones planning your extended business trips. Madison's head whipped toward her husband, whose face confirmed everything before he could stammer a denial. The elegant dining room had transformed into something out of a psychological thriller. Catherine gripped the table edge. Richard stared blankly ahead. Tyler seethed, Madison silently cried, and Brad couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Emma picked up the final envelope, her own, and opened it, unfolding the letter inside. My letter is different, she said quietly. It's not about secrets kept from others, but truths I've hidden from myself. How I've allowed your definitions of success to make me doubt my own. How I've craved your approval even while resenting your standards. How I've stayed silent to keep the peace, swallowing pain rather than causing scenes. She looked up, meeting her mother's stunned gaze. But most importantly, it acknowledges that I have been complicit in this dynamic. By accepting the role of family failure, I've enabled all of you to avoid facing your own failures. By staying silent, I've helped maintain the fiction that we're a perfect family with just one disappointing member. Emma stood, placing her open letter on the table. I'm not distributing these other letters. They stay with me. Consider them insurance. A guarantee that from now on, we relate to each other as real people, with flaws and strengths, not as characters in the story Mom has been desperate to tell her friends. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by Madison's quiet sobs. Merry Christmas, Emma said softly. For once, let's all acknowledge who we really are. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked loudly through the silence, marking each excruciating second after Emma's declaration. She remained standing, shoulders back, heart hammering but outwardly composed as she observed the wreckage around the table. Each family member appeared frozen in their own private horror. Catherine rigid with rage and fear, Richard slumped in uncharacteristic defeat, Tyler's jaw working as he calculated damage control, Madison weeping quietly, and Brad staring at his plate as if it might offer escape. Catherine was the first to recover, drawing herself up with the practiced dignity that had carried her through countless country club scandals. How dare you? She hissed, each word precise and venomous. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? Emma asked with genuine curiosity. Pointed out my failings? Compared me unfavorably to my siblings? Made me feel unwelcome in my own family? We gave you everything. Catherine's voice rose. The best schools, opportunities, connections. You gave me things that would create the daughter you wanted, Emma corrected. not support the daughter you had. Richard cleared his throat, lawyer instincts kicking in despite his shock. These accusations you're making, I hope you understand the seriousness of. They're not accusations, Dad. They're documented facts. Emma kept her voice level. Bank statements, text messages, medical records, witness accounts, all gathered legally, all verifiable. Tyler slammed his hand on the table, making the crystal glasses jump. This is blackmail. No, Emma said firmly. Blackmail involves demands. I'm not asking for anything except basic respect and an end to the narrative that I'm this family's designated failure. Keep your money, your connections, your influence. I don't want any of it. Madison looked up, her makeup streaked. You researched us? Your own family? For a whole year. A flicker of guilt passed through Emma at the genuine hurt in her sister's eyes. I didn't start out planning this, Maddie. After last Christmas, I just wanted to understand why nothing I did was ever good enough. I started looking deeper into our family dynamics, and once I started finding things, I couldn't stop. So what now? Richard asked, his authoritative tone returning. You expect us to just sit here and let you tear apart this family on Christmas? This family was already torn apart, Emma replied. We just covered the cracks with performances and pretense. I'm not trying to destroy us. I'm giving us a chance to be real with each other for once. Catherine stood abruptly, nearly knocking over her chair. I will not sit here and be lectured by my failure of a daughter about what's real. This family has maintained its standing through discipline and standards. Standards you've rejected at every turn. Emma flinched but held her ground. There it is again. The failure label. Tell me, Mom, which is the greater failure? My honest writing career or your secret pill addiction? The slap came without warning, Catherine's palm connecting with Emma's cheek with a crack that echoed through the dining room. Madison gasped. Tyler's eyes widened. Richard half rose from his chair. Emma didn't move, the sting spreading across her face as she locked eyes with her mother. In Catherine's eyes, beyond the anger, Emma saw something new: fear. Raw, unfiltered fear of exposure, of losing control, of being seen. Your father and I want you to leave, Catherine said, her voice shaking despite her attempt at authority. Now, the final rupture had come, and despite preparing for this moment, Emma felt a hollow opening in her chest. 29 years of complex love and pain couldn't be neatly severed, even when necessary. I'll get my coat, she said quietly. As she turned to leave, Madison caught her wrist. Wait. You can't just drop all this and walk away. I'm not walking away, Maddie. I'm just giving everyone space to decide what happens next. Emma gently freed her hand from her sister's grasp. The letters stay with me. What you choose to do with the truths they contain is up to each of you. Tyler's laugh was bitter. So you get to play God with our secrets, is that it? Decide when and how they come out. No, Ty. I just refuse to be the family scapegoat anymore. Emma looked around at each of them. The humiliation, the dismissal, the constant message that I don't measure up, it stops today. Either we build something honest or I walk away permanently, letters and all. She collected her bag and moved toward the foyer, the weight of 2 decades of Christmases just like this one, but completely different, heavy on her shoulders. No one followed immediately, though she could hear urgent whispers behind her. As she pulled on her coat, footsteps approached. Emma turned to find her father, his tall frame somehow diminished in the dim foyer light. Your mother didn't mean what she said, he began, his voice carrying the practiced smoothness of a man accustomed to negotiating. You know how she gets at these gatherings, the pressure she puts on herself. She meant it, Dad. She's meant it for years. You've just allowed it because it was easier than confronting the truth about your marriage, your choices, this entire family narrative. Richard sighed heavily, aging years in moments. We gave you everything we thought you needed. Except acceptance. Emma buttoned her coat with steady hands. That's all I ever really wanted from any of you, to be accepted for who I am, not constantly reminded of who I'm not. For a moment, something like genuine regret flashed across Richard's face. I never meant to make you feel. I know, Dad. Intention doesn't change impact. Emma reached for the door. I'm not closing the door forever. But I won't come back to be anyone's punching bag or cautionary tale. Madison appeared beside them, eyes red but voice surprisingly steady. This isn't right, just leaving like this. What would be right, Maddie? Another 20 years of the same pattern? More Christmases where I leave in tears, while everyone else congratulates themselves on their accomplishments. Emma softened her tone, her sister's pain still able to touch her despite everything. You're the only one who ever showed me real kindness, but even you couldn't see past the role I was assigned. Madison stepped forward, wrapping Emma in a fierce hug that caught her off guard. I've always admired you, she whispered so only Emma could hear. Your courage to live differently. I just didn't know how to say it. The unexpected confession made Emma's eyes sting. She returned the embrace briefly before gently disengaging. We'll talk soon. I promise. As Emma opened the front door, letting in a blast of December air, Catherine's voice rang out from the dining room. If you leave now, don't expect to be welcomed back. The familiar ultimatum, Catherine's standard response to any defiance, fell flat in the wake of everything that had been revealed. Emma looked back at her father and sister standing in the foyer, the beautiful Christmas decorations framing a family portrait that had always been more fiction than fact. Merry Christmas, she said simply and stepped out into the night. Stinging tears mixed with snowflakes as Emma walked down the quiet suburban street away from her parents' house. The perfect December scene. Twinkling lights on manicured lawns, wreaths on doors, families visible through windows sharing meals and laughter, contrasted sharply with the storm inside her. She had imagined this confrontation countless times over the past year, rehearsing every possible reaction, preparing herself for the fallout, but the reality was messier, more painful, and somehow more liberating than any scenario she had envisioned. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, Madison calling. Emma silenced it without answering and continued walking, needing distance before she could engage with any of them again. Her cheek still tingled where her mother's hand had connected, the physical manifestation of truths too uncomfortable to hear. 10 minutes later, having reached the small town center that was deserted on Christmas evening, Emma found a bench near the gazebo where summer concerts were held. She brushed away snow and sat down, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of what had just occurred. The tears came freely now, not tears of victimhood or regret, but of release, the kind that follows a necessary severance, painful but ultimately healing. Her phone buzzed again with a text from Madison. Please tell me where you are. We need to talk. Just me. Emma hesitated, then responded. Town gazebo. 15 minutes. Come alone. While waiting, Emma replayed the dinner scene, analyzing each family member's reaction. Her father's quiet shock spoke to a man who had spent decades believing his authority would protect him from consequences. Tyler's rage revealed the insecurity beneath his bravado, the fear that his achievements might be built on sand. Her mother's slap had been the desperate act of someone seeing her carefully constructed reality crumble. And Madison's tears seemed less about the revelations and more about the recognition of her own complicity in the family dynamic. Headlights appeared on the empty street, and Madison's SUV pulled to the curb. She emerged alone as promised, wrapped in a cashmere coat, her face still bearing traces of tears. You're going to freeze out here, Madison said by way of greeting, sitting beside Emma on the bench. I needed the cold, Emma replied, to clear my head. They sat in silence for a moment, their breath visible in the night air. The house erupted after you left, Madison finally said. Mom had some kind of panic attack. Dad's locked himself in his study with a bottle of scotch. Tyler left, slamming the door so hard one of Mom's crystal angels fell and shattered. Brad's sleeping in the guest room tonight. Emma turned to her sister. And the twins. Still watching their movie, thankfully. They didn't hear any of it. Madison's voice cracked slightly. Is it true? About Brad and his assistant? Emma nodded gently. I'm sorry, Maddie. I found out 3 months ago. I debated whether to include it. Madison stared at her gloved hands. I think I've known for a while. Just couldn't admit it to myself. Perfection doesn't allow for painful truths. I never wanted to hurt you, Emma said honestly. You were always kinder than the rest. Kind but complicit, Madison acknowledged with surprising self-awareness. I played my role in the family story too. The successful put-together daughter who did everything right. You're opposite by Mom's design. We were both trapped in our assigned roles. They sat quietly again, the weight of shared history between them. You know what's strangest? Madison finally continued. Part of me feels relieved. Like I can finally stop pretending everything's perfect. My marriage, my parenting, all of it. Exhausting to maintain. Emma looked at her sister with new eyes. I never realized you felt that way. I never let myself admit it until tonight. Madison turned to face Emma directly. I need to know something. Those letters, were they just leverage? Or were you really prepared to expose everything? Emma considered the question carefully. I told myself they were insurance protection against being dismissed again. But honestly, I'm not sure I could have gone through with distributing them. The point wasn't to destroy the family, just to change the power dynamic. Well, you certainly accomplished that. Madison's laugh was brief and without humor. Nothing will ever be the same. That's not necessarily a bad thing, Emma said quietly. Maybe we can build something real from the wreckage. Madison reached for Emma's hand, squeezing it through their gloves. Where will you go tonight? Do you need a place to stay? I booked a hotel room downtown, Emma admitted. I didn't expect to be welcome after dinner. Always prepared, Madison murmured, then hesitated before asking. What's in my letter exactly? About the kids. Emma shifted to face her sister. Documentation from their preschool teachers expressing concern about the pressure they feel. Notes from family gatherings where you had panic attacks in private after they didn't perform as expected. Your own journal entries. My journal. Madison interrupted, alarmed. How did you? Your blog, Maddie. The private one you think is anonymous, where you write about the crushing pressure of maternal perfection, and your fear that you're damaging your children the way Mom damaged us. Madison's eyes widened. I never thought anyone would connect that to me. I'm a writer. I recognized your voice, your specific anxieties. Emma squeezed her sister's hand. You're not Mom, Maddie. You can break the cycle. Madison wiped away fresh tears. I don't know how. This performance, it's all I know. Start by being honest. With Brad, with the kids, with yourself. Emma paused. And maybe consider therapy. It helped me tremendously this past year. You've been in therapy? Madison seemed genuinely surprised. You seem so strong now. Strength isn't the absence of pain or doubt. It's moving forward despite them. Emma stood, brushing snow from her coat. I should get to my hotel. It's getting late. Madison stood as well, hesitating before embracing her sister tightly. I don't know what happens next with everyone else, but I want us to stay connected. Really connected, not just holiday appearances. I'd like that, Emma said, returning the hug with genuine emotion. As they pulled apart, Madison added, for what it's worth, I never thought you were a failure. I've always been a little jealous of your courage to pursue what you love. The words simple, honest, and long overdue warmed Emma more than any praise from her parents ever had. Thank you for saying that. They walked to their respective vehicles, the night silent around them except for the distant sound of Christmas music from a neighboring house. Emma, Madison called as Emma opened her car door. Are you going to be okay? Emma considered the question, not just in terms of tonight but the road ahead, the complex process of redefining herself outside the narrative of family failure, of building boundaries while leaving room for healing. Yes, she answered with quiet confidence. For the first time in a long time, I think I really will be. As she drove toward the city lights, leaving the suburbs behind, Emma felt both lighter and more solid, as if she'd shed an ill-fitting costume and could finally move freely as herself. The letters remained in her bag, their power not in their potential release, but in the truth they represented, truth that could no longer be buried under holiday platitudes and forced smiles. The family dinner had ended in chaos, but Emma had served the only dish that really mattered. Honesty, unadorned and long overdue. 3 months after the Christmas confrontation, Emma sat at a corner table in a cafe near her apartment, laptop open, working on the final edits for her Atlantic article. The piece had grown from a straightforward examination of urban gentrification into a more nuanced exploration of facades, the physical and psychological structures people build to present a certain image to the world while hiding their true reality. The irony wasn't lost on her. The barista placed a fresh latte beside her keyboard. Your sister just walked in, he said with a knowing smile. Emma looked up to see Madison standing in the doorway, looking both out of place and determined in her expensive coat and sensible boots. Unlike their weekly coffee meetings, this visit was unscheduled. Thanks for the heads up, Jake, Emma said, saving her work before closing her laptop. Madison spotted her and navigated through the tables, her movements precise but less rigid than Emma remembered from Christmas. Something had changed in her sister's demeanor, a loosening of the perfect posture, a softness around the eyes that hadn't been there before. "Sorry to drop in unannounced," Madison said, settling into the chair across from Emma. "I was in the city for a meeting and thought I'd take a chance." "Always welcome," Emma replied, genuinely meaning it. The past 3 months had brought a surprising evolution in their relationship. Weekly coffee dates that had gradually transformed from awkward to authentic, conversations that no longer skirted difficult topics. Madison unwound her scarf. "I have news. Several pieces, actually." Emma signaled to Jake for another coffee. "Good news or bad news?" "Both. Complicated." Madison's smile was tired but real. "Brad and I are separating." Though not entirely surprising given what had been revealed at Christmas, the finality of the statement still hit Emma with some force. "I'm sorry, Maddie." "Don't be. It's been a long time coming." The assistant was just a symptom, not the cause. Madison accepted the coffee Jake delivered with a nod of thanks. "We're doing mediation, keeping it civil for the kids. Joint custody. How are the twins handling it?" "Better than expected. They're in therapy, we all are actually." Madison's laugh held no bitterness. "You were right about that. It helps." Emma resisted the urge to say, "I told you so," instead asking, "And how are you really?" Madison considered the question, something she wouldn't have done months ago when her answers were always perfectly curated. "Scared, relieved, angry some days, but mostly hopeful. I feel like I'm making choices for myself for the first time, not just following the path that was expected." The echo of Emma's own journey wasn't lost on either of them. "The kids are thriving with the changes, surprisingly," Madison continued. "I pulled them from that ridiculous prestigious kindergarten. They're in a progressive school now where they actually get to play and be children." She smiled ruefully. "Mom nearly had a coronary when I told her." "Speaking of Mom," Emma hesitated. "That's the other part of my news." Madison took a deep breath. "She's in rehab. Has been for 6 weeks." Emma set down her coffee cup carefully. "Voluntarily. After a fashion. Dad gave her an ultimatum after she had a complete meltdown at the Valentine's Day gala. Pills and alcohol in public. She couldn't hide it anymore." Madison's expression was complex, concern mixed with something like vindication. "The country club set is buzzing with gossip, which is Mom's worst nightmare come true. And Dad, alternating between damage control and actually dealing with his own issues. The firm asked him to surrender his partnership completely after an internal investigation." Madison's voice softened. "He called me last week, wanted to know if I thought you'd be willing to talk to him." Emma felt a tangle of emotions, satisfaction that her father was facing consequences, concern for a man who, despite everything, was still her father, and wariness about what talking might entail. "Did he say why?" "He wants to apologize. Properly, not the lawyer version." Emma traced the rim of her mug, considering. "And Tyler?" Madison's expression hardened slightly. "Tyler's Tyler. Defensive, angry, refusing to acknowledge any wrongdoing. Grandmother's put someone else in charge of her finances though, so that's something." "Has he tried to contact you?" "Only to blame me for not containing the situation." Madison made air quotes around the phrase. "As if I could have stopped you or should have." Emma felt a rush of affection for her sister, this new version who spoke her mind without fear of disrupting the perfect family narrative. "I'm proud of you, you know. This couldn't have been easy. Easier than perpetuating the lie," Madison said with surprising conviction. "The twins deserve better than what we had growing up. I deserve better too." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the cafe sounds washing over them. Espresso machines hissing, casual conversations, music playing softly in the background. A stark contrast to the stilted formality of family gatherings past. "There's something else," Madison said, reaching into her bag. "Mom asked me to give you this when I saw you next." She produced an envelope, cream-colored stationery with Emma's name written in Catherine's distinctive script. Emma stared at it without reaching for it. "What is it?" "I don't know. She wrote it in rehab, gave it to me during my last visit." Madison placed it on the table between them. "You don't have to read it now. Or ever really." Emma slowly took the envelope, feeling its weight. Thank you for bringing it. Whatever's in there, and knowing Mom, it could be anything from a genuine apology to more subtle manipulation. Remember that your worth isn't defined by her opinion. Madison's voice was firm. You were never the failure she made you out to be. The words, coming from the sister who had once embodied the success Emma could never achieve, carried a healing power that Emma hadn't anticipated. That means a lot coming from you. I'm beginning to understand that we were both damaged by her expectations, just in different ways. Madison checked her watch. I should go. I promised the twins we'd make homemade pizza tonight. Homemade pizza? Emma smiled. Not organic, chef-prepared meals delivered by that service you used to rave about? Madison laughed, a genuine sound. The new Madison makes messy, imperfect pizza with her kids and doesn't post styled photos of it on Instagram. Who knew it could be so liberating? They hugged goodbye, a real embrace that contained both their shared history and their evolving present. As Madison left, Emma returned to her table and stared at the envelope, debating whether to open it now or later. Curiosity won. She carefully broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. Emma, they tell me in therapy that I need to make amends, but I'm not writing this because some counselor told me to. I'm writing because 6 weeks without pills or wine has brought a clarity I've been avoiding for decades. I was wrong. Not just at Christmas but for years before that. I turned you into the receptacle for all my disappointments, my failures, my fears. I punished you for being brave enough to live authentically, while I hid behind prescriptions and social standing. The truth, which is still hard for me to admit, is that I've been jealous of you. Your courage to pursue what matters to you regardless of others' opinions. Your talent that comes so naturally while I've had to carefully construct every aspect of my life to maintain appearances. This doesn't excuse my behavior. Nothing could. But I want you to know that the failure in our family was never you. It was me. A mother who couldn't see the extraordinary daughter right in front of her, because I was too busy trying to mold you into someone I could understand. I don't expect forgiveness. I haven't earned it. But I am doing the work now to become someone worthy of knowing the woman you've become despite my best efforts to break you. When I complete this program, I would like to meet on your terms, your territory, your rules. If you're willing. With regret and hope, Mom. Emma reread the letter twice, searching for the usual manipulations, the subtle digs, the backhanded compliments that had characterized her mother's communication for years. Finding none, she felt an unexpected sting of tears, not from pain this time, but from the complicated emotion of seeing someone you've battled for so long finally lay down their weapons. She didn't trust it completely, couldn't after a lifetime of conditional love, but she recognized the tremendous effort it must have taken Catherine to write those words. For her mother, admitting failure was tantamount to surrender. Emma opened her laptop again, the Atlantic article still waiting for final edits. The piece had evolved during the writing process, much as she had over these past months. What had begun as an exploration of physical gentrification had become a more nuanced examination of authenticity versus performance, reality versus appearance, and the price paid for maintaining facades. She added a new paragraph to the conclusion. Perhaps the most insidious facades are those we don't recognize as such, the family narratives we accept as truth, the roles we play without questioning, the standards we measure ourselves against without examining their origins. Breaking through these psychological constructs requires more courage than tearing down physical structures, but the space created allows for something authentic to finally emerge. Emma saved the changes and closed her laptop. She slipped her mother's letter into her bag alongside the 6 other letters she prepared for Christmas, letters she had never needed to distribute, because the simple act of acknowledging their existence had been enough to crack the family facade. Outside the cafe window, spring was finally asserting itself after a long winter. New growth appeared on trees that had seemed dead just weeks before. Emma watched a family walk by, parents and children laughing together, imperfect but connected. She took out her phone and began to type a message to her mother. I got your letter. I'm not ready for a meeting yet, but I appreciate your honesty. Maybe we can start with a phone call when you complete the program. She hesitated, then added, You were wrong about me being a failure. But you were also wrong about yourself. It's never too late to become someone new. Emma hit send and put away her phone, feeling neither triumph nor resentment, but something quieter and more powerful, the peace that comes with reclaiming your own story. The letters had served their purpose, not as weapons but as catalysts for truth. Some relationships might be beyond repair, others transformed into something healthier. But most importantly, Emma had finally shed the identity of family failure, replacing it with her own definition of success, living authentically, writing honestly, and loving selectively but deeply. She gathered her things and stepped into the spring afternoon, no longer walking away from something painful but moving toward something real. A life defined not by others' expectations but by her own choices, her own voice, her own truth. As she navigated the busy sidewalk, Emma felt light in a way she hadn't since childhood, before roles were assigned and facades constructed. The Harper family would never be what Catherine had pretended it was, but perhaps it could become something more valuable, a group of flawed individuals learning at long last to see each other clearly. And that, Emma realized, was the only success that had ever truly mattered.